Jamil Krim speaking.
Jimmy, this is Eric Braeden. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. How are you?
What's going on, man?
Not too much, not too much. How was your Christmas?
Very nice.
Very nice, eh?
Very nice. How was yours?
Oh, can't complain. I got to see the whole family. It was definite good times.
Mm-hmm.
It was very good, very good. Can't complain.
How's the weather up there?
A lot of rain, but that's to be expected here.
Uh-huh.
How about the weather in LA?
Absolutely beautiful today.
Oh, lucky, lucky.
Couldn't be better. Had been raining unusually hard, but beautiful today.
Good. I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear.
So, what's going on, man?
Not too much here. Just before we start the interview, I was wondering just that we do have permission to record your voice.
Sure.
Great, great. Well, let's get right into it, man. When you first moved to the United States in 1959, you worked at the University of Texas Medical School lab.
No.
No?
No. I had a cousin who taught at the American University of Texas.
Interesting.
She taught there. She sponsored my trip to America. She sponsored my immigration. Okay.
Interesting. So then, when you came to America, was the plan always for you to be an actor, or did you have other ambitions as well?
No, adventure more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wanted to study political science and economics probably, and who knows what would have happened with that.
Huh.
Anyway, go on.
Well, thank God you got into acting then, eh?
Yes and no. It's something that I obviously enjoy doing, and after I'd done my first play or two, I knew that is what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, sticking with acting, your 2008 movie, The Man Who Came Back, the movie featured some great actors and did exceptionally well, as it was among the highest DVD rentals and purchases in the country upon its release.
Wow, fantastic.
What was starring in that movie like? And if I'm correct, this was the first film you were in since Meet the Deedles in 1998.
Probably. Exactly. I put this one together, and I was very interested by the story. I was interested in throwing some light on a part of American history that most people don't look at critically. It was after slavery was supposedly over. It was after the Civil War and the Reconstruction South, and the egregious affronts against humanity were extraordinary. So there's a book that came out here a number of years ago called Without Sanctuary, and it's a photo documentation of lynchings and burnings alive and skinnings alive that occurred in the South and the latter part of the 19th century, where people came with their cameras and took pictures, came by the hundreds and thousands.
Interesting.
So this is a microscopic view of that. I was given what was a normal revenge story, and I said I need an historic context. So we did some research, and lo and behold, we found out all kinds of things. So, and it was based on a strike. I think it was the first labor strike in the South in 1887, where plantation workers who were nominally freed from slavery in reality were economically tied to whatever plantation they worked on. And because the plantations had their own, they issued not money but scrip, SCRIP. And they raise and lower prices as they wished. And the laws in the South were that if you owed money to the company store, you were not free. So it was a perpetuation of slavery by different means.
Interesting. Well,
and then there was a strike in 1887 where railroad workers and plantation workers got together and asked to be paid in cash, asked for, I think, a 12-hour day, etc. And the strike was brutally put down with Gatlin machine guns. So that is all a part of American history and Southern history that I was interested in, and hence The Man Who Came Back.
Interesting. Well, sticking with that movie, you worked with Billy Zane in this movie for the first time since Titanic. What was that like?
Oh, he's a very nice man, a very good actor. You know, they all liked the material, and that was fine. It was great.
Right.
Yeah.
With Titanic.
They were wonderful to work with, from George Kennedy to Armand Assante, Billy Zane, Sean Young, all the other actors who were in, Ken Norton, the former heavyweight champion of the world, and people that I had respected. And it was a wonderful experience. But then when it comes to distribution of the film, that's a different story. That's the bane of the existence of independent producers in Hollywood. You hand it over to a distribution company, and then you don't know what happens.
Interesting. Well, staying with Billy Zane in Titanic, you played the role of John Jacob Astor. What was it being like being part of one of the most successful movies of all time?
Not very nice.
Really?
No, it was okay. I mean, I didn't want to do the part, to be honest with you, because it was too small. I was talked into it by my wife and my son, who said, "You've got to work with James Cameron." And he was great to work with for me. He had remembered a movie I'd done called Colossus, the Forbin Project, came out in the latter 60s, in which I starred. And he was a very nice man to work with, and I have enormous respect for him. But was it interesting for me as an actor? No, it was not. It was too small.
Interesting. Well, let's move away from the big screen a little bit here. You've become arguably the most iconic man in daytime television with your role as Victor Newman in Young and the Restless. What's it like playing such an iconic role?
Well, I'm very grateful to have been employed for the last 31 years on this show. It has mostly been a very good experience. I'm surrounded by very good actors. Our head writer now, Bill Bell Sr., of course, was the head writer in the early 20 years that I was there, and then a few came, and then Maria Bell took over the helm, and she has done a hell of a job. I feel very comfortable with her as the head writer. And what can I tell you? It's a joy to have been doing this for 31 years, you know.
Mm-hmm. Then after that, what's your favorite all-time Victor Newman moment?
A series of moments involving a storyline that Bill Bell came up with, because after about a year or two I was sick and tired of playing this rather one-dimensional bad guy, and he came up with a brilliant story of Victor Newman having grown up in an orphanage, and the storyline involving that has been the most interesting, I think, to me. Emotionally, the most interesting. And the first time that my mother, who hadn't seen in 30 years, who had abandoned me at the steps of an orphanage when I was 7, and she came back into my life when I was very successful. I didn't trust her was my mother. And then she said something that only she could have known. And that is one of my all-time favorite moments, I must say. In story, obviously also stories involving Melody Thomas Scott, Nikki. But I would say that storyline that was now replayed partly on the 23rd, if you happen to have watched it.
Yeah.
Story. That was partly replayed, and that's an emotionally very deep-seated story with me.